The Reverend Dorothy Fields thinks of herself as an ordinary lady, but her story is far from typical.
We seem to come from a long line of religious rebels. Now, my mother was a librarian, then she was a teacher, and she was always involved in many community activities. Everyone who knew her thought she should go to seminary, but it took her a little longer to decide.
My faith has always been important to me. I think that started in early childhood because my mother sort of got me to believe that God was a friend, a dear friend. When it came to thinking about going to seminary and being ordained, I had never really thought that much about doing that. And then finally, at the age of 53, to enter Drew Theological Seminary. One day, Bob Edgar, who was a minister in the church, but now had also become my representative in Congress, he said to me, "How would you like to have the opening prayer at the House of Congress today?" And I said, "Sure." So on the 14th of July, 1983, I took the train from Chester. Bob met me in Washington, and we went over to the Capitol, went into Tip O'Neill's office. Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House, and we had to talk together and what the procedure would be on the floor of this house. And then we rode on the train, a little train they have that goes from the Capitol to the House, and I offered the prayer. After the prayer, Bob was asked to introduce me, and so in the course of his talking, he said, "I was first a pastor and then became a social activist." And he said, "Dorothy was first a social activist and then became a pastor." And so while I was in college, I was president of the League of Women Voters when I couldn't vote because I was not old enough. And then I also was a member of the International League for Peace and Freedom, Women's League for Peace and Freedom, YWCA, a number of other activities, both local and further afield. Well, I think having met a variety of people and hearing what they felt and how they believed, that basically, although on the surface we may be very different, but basically we are all people. Nancy is one of those religious rebels, and she has for some years been a member of the Baha'i faith.
Well, I always appreciated differences in cultures and people. In fact, that is one reason I am so strongly attracted to the Baha'i faith. We say unity and diversity. Oh, then I got a lung infection and wound up in the hospital. But I saw the doctors and nurses and therapists looked like they were very interested in what they were doing. And I thought, well, I could do something like that. And I think I might like to go to nursing school. So I got out of the hospital and enrolled in Widener University School of Nursing. That is where I met my dear friend, Wari Muthande. She was from Kenya. When we graduated from nursing school, she went back to visit her family in Kenya and invited me to come along for 1 month. I stayed with the family. I realized that nurses are needed everywhere. And so I could play out some of my dream to go different places and experience those different cultures. Now, I took jobs in Boston, Alabama, and Philadelphia, and some other places. So I got to see firsthand what people and cultures are really like. I had a serious accident and brain injury, and I could no longer work in nursing. So I decided to take up art. Back here is one of the first things I painted, and I call it Mankind is One. You can see the diversity of the colors and shapes. And as I have lived here, I see that people really get along, and because of the diversity. So I would say that's been a very, very encouraging part of living here.
Amanda Tabb is an energetic lady. She led a global life with a fascinating career in the Department of State and Department of Defense. Not a complete surprise. She prepared herself for that.
I went to Temple Community College, which took the commercial course. I wanted to be a bilingual secretary so that I could travel. It turned out that I ended up as a secretary, and I got to do my traveling. When I first went to find a job, I was born in Bryn Athyn, and Beth Ayres is not far away. The posting was in Beth Ayres, and I went to Beth Ayres, used a public telephone to call this company, and they said the job was still vacant for the secretary. So I went to the place, and all of a sudden the job was filled. But my parents taught me, we went through a lot, they went through a lot in life, that you make the best of a bad situation, which I did. I got married in 1952, and in 1953, my husband Bill had to fulfill his conscription, and he was stationed in Hanau, Germany, which is about 20 miles from Frankfurt. I got a chance to go visit him there, and I guess that was the beginning of my traveling bug. We became divorced, and I decided I would travel, so I joined Foreign Service. My first job was in Brussels, Belgium, and that was with State Department. When I joined Foreign Service, females had to be single. That was a requirement for housing and other things. One of my assignments was to Oslo, Norway, and that was the most fun. The ambassador's wife was ill, and she was supposed to take something to the museum in Bergen, Norway. And for whatever reason, I was asked if I would step in and take this fretless banjo to the museum in Bergen as a gift from the United States government. One of the ways to get there was you take waterways. You take a ship to a certain point, you get off of that ship in the middle of the water and get on another one and go to Bergen. It was not only challenging, but it was fun. 1967, when my tour was over, I came back home on the SS-US. It was a really wonderful experience for me. And the Duke and Duchess of Windsor happened to be aboard that crossing to her visit. But I met both of them, the male and the female servants, it was an experience, it was real nice. The Duke and Duchess, by the way, the State Department sends people first class, which was wonderful, except that you don't find many people your age when you're young riding first class, and the classes aren't supposed to mix. First class can't go to second class at that time could not go to first. In Australia, of course, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving, and a lot of the Americans do. And I had one Thanksgiving dinner for 40 people because my rented house was large enough for that, and all of the American women brought different foods that they like to prepare. And of course, Thanksgiving in Australia, according to the season, it's pretty warm. Nonetheless, it was a wonderful affair to share Thanksgiving with the Australians. And I think they're doing a good job today. I really do. Things have become easier. In the context of applying for a job, I went through things that hopefully have stopped the prejudice that I experienced. But with the good guidance of my parents, they say, you have to roll with the punches. You do what you have to do. You just can't sit back and expect somebody else to do it. You have to get out there and get involved yourself.
Amazing, aren't they? They lead truly cross-cultural lives. They think of themselves as ordinary women, but their experiences and career paved the way for many others. We are honored they make their homes at Simpson House and look forward to their continued participation in our dynamic community.